Hey everybody, welcome to Free Time. I'm Jerry Williams, also known as GreaterSapien. Now, I am a fan of a number of shows and film series, but I can honestly say there has been no show I've been more in anticipation of returning than Severance on Apple TV Plus. It has been 3 years since season one, but season two is here and I'm going to talk about it. I'll recap the episode, give my thoughts on the characters, and speculate on things I don't know like a flat earther. We're going to go right into it. So I hope you're up to speed on season one. I will try to give some backstory as I go along, but you really should just go watch the first season. Consider yourself warned that there will be spoilers for the entire series up to and including this episode I'm discussing right now, which is Severance Season 2, Episode 1, Hello, Miss Cobel. Now, after the season one recap, we open on a black screen with the final words of the main characters of season one, Mark, Helly, and Irving. They had all awakened in their innie personas in the outside world and had encounters that blew their minds. We hear the last words before they were switched back off. We then follow Mark, played by Adam Scott, as he wakes up back in Lumen and immediately starts running the rat maze that is the severed floor of Lumen Industries. It's a great running sequence, and I like the fact that the character is running with such intention. He is going somewhere. His eyes lead around corners. They didn't just stick him on a treadmill and CGI walls around him like the Flash on the CW. He runs to the wellness center only to find it empty, like IRS is coming, let's pull up stakes empty. When he was in the outside world, Mark found out that Miss Casey from the wellness office was the wife of his outside self, who was thought to be dead. Finding the room empty, Mark heads back to Macrodata Refinement, his workspace, only to find 3 other workers there and not his friends. He learns from Milchick and the new coworkers that 5 months has passed. He and his friends made a big impact on the outside world, and only he has chosen to return. Milchick says Mark's Audi begged to return. Now, how much of this can be believed? Who knows? Milchick spins an obvious lie about the Patricia Arquette character, Miss Cobel, so who knows how much of what Milchick says is true. His new coworkers seem to know a little about his venture out, so some part of Milchick's story has some ring of truth to it. We learn a little bit more about Lumen's reach with these new coworkers. Because they are severed, they have no idea where they're from, but 2 of them seem to have been from an office that had more funds than the office we know of right now. They say the perpetuity wing in their office had animatronic figures that moved and have choreography, unlike the current one, which just has statues. And let's see, another says that one of the offices he was at was so poor it had brooms with plates for faces instead of statues. It's such a weird world that they built for this show. Now, Milchick has taken Cobel's position, and Milchick's spot seems to have been filled by a precocious child named Miss Wong. They have an actress who's like 18 but looks 14, so who knows how old the character is supposed to be. With this show, it could be 12. Mark tries to sabotage one of his new coworkers, does something unspoken to the kitchenette, all as a distraction to get to Milchick's office to get on the communicator with the board of Lumen, where he demands to have his original coworkers back before being caught. All this chaos seems to pay off because he is then sent to an seemingly all new section of Lumen, still severed, where he is joined by his coworkers, Helly, Irving, and Dylan. Dylan, who had remained behind to run the controls that set them loose last season. All of them seem to be in the exact same mental place we saw them last, meaning they had not woken up as their severed personas since then. They make their way to their workroom pretty freely, and the new coworkers have gone. So this makes me wonder how much time has passed since Mark was sent down the elevator. Seems to me they didn't really go to a different section of the building, but instead this floor has been redressed. At this point, our heroes notice the security cameras that were once prominent seem to be gone. They are then told to see Milchick in the break room. The break room, as we all know from the first season, was the room where employees went to be disciplined. The company broke you down psychologically through a marathon repetition of an apology statement. That they are all going to the break room together says something new is happening. They head down the creepy, dark, and comically narrow hallway to the break room, only to find Milchick waiting in a small theater room. Now, I have to say, the actor Tremel Tillman, who plays Milchick, is crazy good. The smile on his face when they come into the room is filled with so much. Mark says, and Milchick seems to agree, that the board has reconsidered Mark's demand to have his team back. Again, this makes me wonder how much time has passed since Mark was sent down the elevator. He goes on to show them a new internal company PR video that he claims will be shown to all the other severed employees who work in the building going forward. The video is a fairly well-produced claymation short, which is leaps ahead of the 8-bit animated pieces we saw on display in Season 1. It's basically a recap of the rebellious actions of Season 1, spun by the company as a catalyst for growth that the company greatly appreciated. It outlines what it considers incredible reforms it's implemented for the lives of the innies, though any outside observer can clearly see it's just shiny window dressing. But even though it's obviously the case, it shows how deeply ingrained the cult of Kier is, and because our characters can't help but still be a little drawn in by the propaganda. We learned that Lumen has operations in 206 countries, and there are several workplaces all over the world. I'm not sure if that was mentioned in Season 1. After the viewing, the four are told that they have a choice to stay or go. If they choose to stay, they just go back to work. If they choose to go, their any persona will just cease to exist. Now, as a viewer, this is a choice I don't trust. The Audi, the original persona that chose to be severed, makes the decisions in this framework. Milchick seems to be saying, your Audi is allowing you to choose. If you choose to leave, then your Audi is out of a job, and it's okay with that. That doesn't ring true to me. Something else going on. The team is told that there are no more recording devices, and though they don't fully believe that, they take the opportunity to finally get caught up with what happened when they woke up in the outside world. Mark explains that he woke up at a dinner party for Rick and Hale, a new age pop philosophy author who happens to be his brother-in-law. Now, they all know Rick and Hale because in Season 1, Milchick mistakenly left a copy of Hale's book where they could find it, and they all read it. Now, the book is comically poorly written, but contains gems of a kind of counterculture rebel outlook. And given the fact that no severed employee has ever read anything other than Lumen Cult of Kier propaganda, that book was literally revolutionary. Mark then stuns them by revealing that his Audi was married to Miss Casey, the wellness counselor, and he believes his wife to be dead. I'm sure at some point I'll have a chance to go into the messed up life that Miss Casey seems to have had. Next, Helly lies and says she woke up a normal, boring person in an apartment. Now, all viewers were waiting for her to reveal who she was because we know it would be an atomic bomb. But apparently, Helly isn't ready to tell everyone that her Audi is Helena Egan, heir to the Egan legacy, soon to be in charge of Lumen Industries, who severed herself in order to sell the wonders of the procedure to a wider audience. A goal she has had since she was a child, with the ultimate goal of severing every person they can, the whole world, her father says. But she lies and tells a mundane tale. Now, I have to say, at this point, my spider sense started tingling, and I began to wonder if this was Helly at all and not Helena, the Audi persona, just acting like Helly. We know that everything up until now had been heavily recorded, and if it is actually 5 months, it would be enough time for Helena to learn everything about everyone and enough to fake it. It works either way, character-wise. Helena protecting her identity, or Helly not being prepared to reveal uh, and deal with the revelation. Now, I can say that I lean toward it actually being Helly because I trust the writing and the acting in this show. I think things are done deliberately. Helly seemed to be making up the story on the fly, which she would if she had just woken up from where we saw her last. A memorized story would come out faster and probably be less bullshitty. So I'm trusting the execution here. But my first instinct was, I don't know. Irving can't bring himself to tell the group what he did and instead goes off on his own, and Dylan pursues him. We then cut to Mark and Helly walking the halls, and Mark tells Helly that he needs to get Miss Casey out. After all, he's his wife, even though he reassures Helly there had been nothing between them when she was around. During this scene, Helly is still saying things that could be interpreted as her being the outie faking it, until Mark says that he and his outie are essentially the same person, and Helly absolutely rebuffs him there. They and their outies are definitely not the same, she insists. She says that they don't owe them shit, which takes Mark aback because, according to her story, her outie was just a regular schlub in a big t-shirt. The disdain she shows is a bit extra. However, Helly's disgusted by the reality of who her outie is, and it's bleeding through. But she agrees to help Mark get Miss Casey out, even though it's at odds with her affection for him. That means the two of them are staying at Lumen. Meanwhile, Dylan is going after Irving, who is determined to seemingly leave the severed floor. He explains to Dylan how he didn't execute the plan. He didn't go for help. He went and found Bert G., his severed friend he had fallen for, played by Christopher Walken. He learned that Bird had a partner in real life and was heartbroken. He just wants the pain to stop. And in his mind, maybe by retiring himself, he would somehow be with Bert's retired Innie persona. This brings to mind the idea that whenever a severed employee goes into that elevator, they don't know if they will ever be back. They are potentially dying each time they go in there. Which takes me back to something earlier in the episode where a couple times we see Mark go in and out of the elevator. And unlike sequences in season 1 where the transition was fairly smooth, a small flutter of the eyes and some unsteadiness, the transitions here are increasingly stressful, especially the last one, where I think Mark was truly afraid he was dying. The doors closing were like someone pushing him down an elevator shaft, and his transition was a violent panic. It's all so messed up. So back to Irving. He tells Dylan that his outie was painting countless pictures of a dark hallway, but not the one to the break room, but a hallway that Irving isn't aware of. But doesn't get a chance to go any further and tell him how he was able to find Bert G. Irving's outie seems to have been investigating Lumen a great deal and had found out where a number of severed employees lived. It seems that Irving's outie was as much a rebel against Lumen on the outside as any Irving had been a believer on the inside. It's a great scene for these two as Dylan briefly lets down his shield of sarcasm he always wields and shows he really cares about Irving, even if he managed to be self-centered in his delivery. Irving is genuinely touched and seems to realize that he's affected others in a way that he was unaware of until then. But Dylan is drawn away by Miss Wong, leaving Irving's fate unknown. Dylan is taken to Milchick's office where we get a brief funny scene of Milchick being really focused on the unimportant fact that his screensaver on his computer still says, "Hello, Miss Cobel." Milchick takes Dylan to a secret room and shows him the blueprints for a new section being built where outie families can come and visit innies. He says Dylan gets to know about it because his outie is married, but he's not to let the others know about it. Milchick obviously is aware of Dylan's psych profile and knows how Dylan takes tremendous pride in earning exclusive perks, so he's dangling this insane perk in front of him in order to put a wedge between Dylan and the team. It's not a dumb plan. We then cut back to the MDR workroom where Helly and Mark silently acknowledge that they're on the same page. Dylan arrives, as does Irving shortly thereafter. To signal that we've got the entire band back together, we get a needle drop and a 360 pan around the cubicles, Aaron Sorkin, Joss Whedon style. Everyone clearly seen and making eye contact. A clear showing of how far this team has come from where it began in season 1, and even how different they are from the new coworkers Mark had earlier in the episode. That team, just like this one in season 1, kept the walls of their cubicles up, only lowering them for conversation or emphasis. This team really likes each other, cares for each other, and actually wants to see and be seen by each other. So they keep the walls down. Excellent visual storytelling here. Lastly, we see Mark refining more data, and maybe I'm wrong, but unlike the scary numbers that were often talked about, Mark seems to be pleased by the numbers he's finding. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but it seems more than, hey, I'm glad to be working with my team again. But more, these are the nice numbers briefly mentioned in season 1. As he adds the numbers to a bin, the view of his screen changes to the view of another screen with the same information presented on it. As a view of this new screen pans back, we see a video of Miss Casey, though her appearance is different. Superficially, her hairstyle has changed, but she's holding herself differently on camera. Her chin is down, her eyes more defiant. A clear indication that we are not looking at the Miss Casey persona. On that screen are a bunch of biometric stats, not seen on Mark's screen, but it's given the same project name of Cold Harbor as the file data that Mark is refining. End of episode. This is a great start to the second season, leaving us with many more questions to be answered. Whew, I really enjoyed it. Okay, that's it for Severed Season 2, Episode 1. I welcome your takes, insights, and theories in the comment section, so please feel free. See you next week. Peace.